And our topic is, of course, Russia and the Great War. From the time they intervened in Syria in order to save Syria from becoming another Libya, they knew that there was risk, there was danger, and that this could provoke the Great War, nuclear war, between United States leading NATO, and in which Turkey is a member state, and Russia, and now Russia's ally, China. So the Russian people are already aware about the possibility of a great war and about the consequences, possible consequences of that great war. And we want to begin by thanking the Russian government and thanking the Russian people who supported the government and did not criticize and condemn the government, supported the government in that very courageous stand that they took to save Syria, to save the Christians of Syria from being slaughtered by Dajjal's warriors. The Great War is something which will cause great suffering in Russia because it's going to be nuclear war, and the United States and NATO are going to send all the nuclear weapons they could possibly send, because this is a war to the finish. And nuclear weapons are going to cause immense damage and devastation in Russia. And many, many, many will die. But the good news is that the Russian people have demonstrated to the world that they have faith in their hearts and they're not afraid to die. And we on this side from the world of Islam, we look at you and we admire a people who are not afraid to die. And this is as a consequence of something in your heart, something called faith. And you are therefore an Orthodox Christian people with whom we have a sense of affinity. We are brothers. You follow the Son of Mary, the true Messiah. You follow the Son of Mary, the true Messiah. We follow Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him. We also are conscious of the fact that the Russian people have the capacity to make sacrifice, and it's going to be nuclear war. Our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, informed us of where the war would begin. Yes, we know it's going to begin in the north of Syria. That's what he said. But the beginning of the war is not as important as the consequences of the war. And the consequences of the war is, he said, 99 out of every 100 who fight in that war would be killed. And so it's a unique war that's coming. It's a war in which weapons of mass destruction would be used for the first time on such a scale. When we look at the other side, we see rent an army. We see people being brought to fight and being offered cards and being offered green cards and all these things. And they're only there in the army fighting for the monetary dividends. So that can't be an army with faith. But on your side, it's an army of faith. And that's a big difference between the two, when these two armies face each other in the Great War. Not only are we proud of the fact that there are many, many, many Muslims fighting in the Russian armed forces, but we have something more to share with you in today's video, and that is that the Lord God himself will be helping you in that war. This is how we start our subject today. And we want to take you to the Quran and to explain the Quran as perhaps never explained before to you. We know the outcome of the big war that's coming, the Great War. We know that the Lord God is going to intervene in this Great War. And we want to take you to the Quran. We want to take you to what the Quran has recorded at that moment when they were attempting to crucify Jesus, the Son of Mary. And he did not know what was going to happen, but the Lord God, he knew. And he spoke to Jesus. And he speaks to Jesus and he says, "Oh Jesus, I'm going to take your soul." And of course, When the Lord God takes the soul, he can either keep it or return it. And if he keeps it, well, they have succeeded. They have killed him. But the Lord God said, no, they did not succeed. I made it appear like that. And so therefore, he took the soul and he returned it. But they didn't know that. And then he said, I'm going to raise you unto myself. And so the son of Mary was raised unto the Lord God himself. This is the Quran. And I'm going to cleanse and purify you of all the blasphemous things they have uttered against you and your mother. And today, we live in a world in which they don't dare to stand up and speak those things about Jesus anymore, because the world will crush them today. They've been purified. Now listen. And the Quran then goes on to say that I'm going to raise those who follow you, O Jesus, raise them high and dominant over the other group which rejected him and which hurled these blasphemous things against him, these disbelievers. And when I raise them, the followers of Jesus, to that position of dominance, they will remain there until the end of the world. And so now the Quran is helping you in Russia to understand what happened these last 20 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, after the chaos which followed, this miraculous rise of Orthodox Christian Russia, with missile technology second to none in the world, to a position of military dominance today. This is what the Lord God said in the Quran 1400 years ago. And this is what has now happened. I am saying this to you so you might know what the Quran says that is applicable to you. That not only are you going to defeat NATO in this war, that even after you have defeated NATO in the war, you will still remain the dominant force in the world. The Quran speaks of you about the Orthodox Christian world, and there's a whole chapter in the Quran, and it's called Surah Al-Rum. And Rum, of course, comes from the original term Rome. So when the pagan Roman Empire left Rome and went to Constantinople, they kept the name Rome with it. And that name Rome came in the Quran as Rum. But then came the transformation of that Roman Empire to become a Christian empire. And so Rome in the Quran is not pagan, it's Christian. And the Quran speaks positively of that Christian empire which was based in Constantinople, and which was called the Byzantine, or the Holy Byzantine Empire. Some pronounce it as Byzantine. And Allah speaks in the Quran and says that you will have two victories. By His help, you will be victorious twice. And the first one took place 600 years ago when the Quran was revealed at that time, when the Holy Byzantine Empire defeated Persia. And then says the Quran, there'll be a second one. But in between the two, there's something happening, because the first one is described as before, min qabl, and the second one is described as min ba'd, after. Two victories, one before and one after. In between, there must be something. What is it? It's the Great Schism of 1054, when the West parted from you and they went their way and said, we don't care two peanuts for the law anymore. And so they violated the Sabbath. And the Lord God cursed them, the West, but not you. The Lord God is pleased to help you to two victories, one before the schism of 1054, which took place in the lifetime of the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon, and one to come after. It hasn't come as yet. The second one hasn't cometh yet. And I'm sharing with you my view. I can be wrong, that the second one is coming soon, when you'll be victorious and you'll defeat that world that was cursed by the Lord God. NATO.